And hello, everybody. Professor Andy Molnar, happy to be back with you again. This time, our conversation is around execution. So, execution is the focus for this week, executing our projects. But really, let me stop and say that the information in this presentation will significantly enhance your answers on the short answer quiz at the end of the week. So listen to this lecture, download the slides, take some notes. You'll be in pretty good shape. Do critical thinking, and I will assess it afterwards. So here we go, jumping in. Key takeaways. So let me say, even before executing, let's take a step back and think about what we have to decide first. Before execution, you have to decide as the project manager what will be your project methodology. We're going to go into this a little more detail shortly, but for now, just know that there are two different sides of it. There's a predictive / waterfall approach to project management, and there's an agile or change-driven approach. Two general approaches. We'll get more detailed shortly. Now, after a specific project management methodology is determined, then you will be able to lead your team because the approach is going to change how you streamline processes, how you enhance team coordination, and it's going to help you ensure that the goals are met within scope, time, and budget. So, what methodology you choose will depend on your team, your project type, your scope risk. Choosing project management methodologies is one of the first decisions you'll ever make as project manager. If your project is risk-based, then you probably want a waterfall or predictive project. If your project, and this will have a detailed scope, a detailed understanding of costs and risk. Not perfect, you'll make changes along the way. This one, Agile, has a very high level sense of scope, right? And so it's going to be change driven. And those are really the differences between them. This one, waterfall, I meet the customer periodically at the beginning, at the end of each phase. This one, the customer lives with me and I do some demos, kind of neat. Anyhow, keep that in mind. Now, I'd also like to mention to you that I want you to think of yourself as an alpha project manager, right? Alpha project manager. It's kind of a new term for us. Uh, these are the best project managers. Project management has become an indispensable skill in the white-collar world that we live in. And what really separates the top project managers from everybody else is much is important, right? And in executing, notice that an alpha project manager spends more time within the process groups and the processes than their counterparts, right? An alpha project manager is going to spend less time uh, in initiating and planning, and most of their time executing the project. This is data taken from Andy Crow, who's done a study of project managers. But the key takeaways to be an alpha project manager is communication, right? Communication is key. The alphas talk to the stakeholders early on in the project, they understand them, they set predictable communication schedules, they communicate clearly and concisely and relevant topics, and they create open channels for dialogue along the way. They ask probing questions for clarity. They keep relationships going. They focus and prioritize the project evolution throughout based on all of this, right? They demonstrate excellence in correspondence. An alpha project manager is also going to focus on the process. They have a process in place and they ensure the team is trained on it. They view projects really more like a living organism rather than some linear process, right? And they're going to rely on some informal networks as well to complete the project work. There's an awful lot of leadership applied to an alpha project manager. You put a lot of time into selecting your team that will enhance your leadership. You should have the authority to make critical decisions. You lead, you don't just manage, right? Tom Peters said, is a famous author, nobody gives you power, you just take it, right? So don't just manage. Ensure that every assignment you give out has accountability and authority built in. Develop your people along the way. Create a sense of teamwork and apply different leadership styles as needed in various phases of the project. As well as a leader, demonstrate, please, humility and self-awareness. And once you develop your team into high performing, you can really serve as a mentor and create a mentor-mentee relationship. So an alpha project manager is also going to set and manage expectations, right? You begin managing expectations from the first mention of an assignment. You um, you gain alignment before plowing ahead. You measure customer satisfaction in this expectation management. You define and meet your scope goals, quality, time, budget, etc. You'll spend at least 20% of your time on planning, but notice most of it will be spent executing. You want to make sure, as we've discussed throughout this course, alignment of your project with the strategic goals, and you want to make sure everybody knows what they are. Even keep critical success factors, right? Make sure your project is tied to those. It makes a good conversation with key stakeholders. You want to identify issues and change and risk along the way. Make sure you do that. And you want to incorporate attitude, environment, and professional development into everything. You look forward to work. Loving my job is a decision I have to make every day. Um, you want people just to look forward to it, not just to say, I got to struggle through this. Um, Treat project management like a career. It's not a side gig, right? And seek out training and education that applies. Anyhow, be an alpha project manager. Highly recommended. This slide is really just a summary of what project management can look like. And here is execution right here. This is overall waterfall project management. How it flows here is an index or a legend. This is execution. So what's involved in execution? Well, project execution follows right after project planning. You can see that connection here. And execution is where the team now actively collaborates to get the project off on the right foot. This involves hosting kickoff meetings, executing on the timelines, collaborating on the work, basically building it. So this phase focuses on executing the strategies that you just outlined in planning. So the project manager is going to monitor progress, manage changes, allocate resources, communicate with stakeholders to ensure the deliverables are being built to quality standards. So what's integral to the project management execution process is executing the plan, right? The plan serves as that guiding document to execute, and then later we'll talk about monitoring and controlling along the way. We already saw this slide, and all I really wanted to do is to make sure that you understand that in project management, the last slide was about predictive projects, And you can see it's kind of a flow waterfall. It'll go from planning to executing to monitoring and controlling and to closing. But notice executing and controlling are happening at the same time. Notice from controlling, I can go back to planning, or executing, I can go back to planning. Here's another way of looking at it. This is also a very important point, right? So project management isn't linear. Notice that initiating starts, but it goes on for the first quarter of the project. That planning is happening well into the project execution. That executing starts from the minute we started initiating all the way through to the finish, etc. So the importance of project execution is putting the plans into action, and those plans are starting early on. So this execution phase is critical, right? This is where in execution the bulk of the work is getting done. You can see that. And that's why alpha project managers spend most of their time executing, not back in planning or controlling, etc. As a project manager, this is a commanding presence where most of your time and attention is spent here, right? This is the heart and soul of project management, executing right here. This is where we see your work in meticulous planning is transformed into some tangible result now. And so what are you doing as a project manager? Here's a key word in modern project management is you're delivering value. This is the phase where ideas are molded and deliverables created, and the real value of the planned work is realized by the team and then appreciated by the stakeholders, right? This is where we are putting action to the plan that we've been working on. Action, all ideas, documents, tasks are signed. These are all put in motion as the operation begins and it hits full gear, right? With the project manager leading the teams and checking off items as they get completed. And as I've mentioned many times, you'll spend most of your time communicating. Clear communication and team cohesion are essential. A successful execution engages the team in communicating frequently and in various ways about the details of the project, motivation, feedback, awards, um, and 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 it details the project and demonstrates that you're working collaboratively, fostering motivation, raising morale, right? You're managing the team along the way and strengthening those bonds involved. Really very exciting. This is just a general slide on what I call IPEC, initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing. This is kind of an overview slide. We'll come back to it again, but you can see initiating here. These are key activities: planning, executing, controlling, closing. Notice that executing and controlling are happening at the same time. And it's largely about managing people, building it, applying approved changes, collecting data, right, to assess, and requesting changes as appropriate in project management. So this week is about executing, so I'm going to skip through executing. This is very important to plan. Imagine, look at this picture. These guys built all these barriers, but look, they've boxed themselves in. The value of planning becomes obvious. You can pause on these slides if you want. There is really some good stuff here, but as I said, project execution is putting these plans in place. As I mentioned, delivering value, I've mentioned previously, putting action to the plan and clear communications, building team cohesion, right? There seems like a lot there. Where do you begin? It's like an elephant, right? You just start. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Is how I begin. So I'm going, that's enough. That's planning. These are just some slides you could print out if you wanted. It's good information. But this week is about execution, right? So execution, this roadmap. I'm going to pause here, come back, and we'll do part 2 of the slides that enhance the quiz, your quiz short answers. Thank you.